Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
What's up, Delora? New week, new recap.
Hi, Ashley.
How's it going?
It's going. It's nothing like springtime cold, So
it's not cold, it's allergies with the pollen and everything else blowing around.
I know. So bear with me and my voice. It's actually, my voice is a lot better than even last week, but still this cough needs to go.
Wishing for a speedy recovery for you, girl. But
thank you.
Today we're going to have to utilize your voice just a bit because we got to talk about our latest recap. We teased it at the end of last episode. Thank you again so much to Angelica for joining us last week.
Thank you.
It was a fantastic time. She mentioned some legislation that was relevant to this episode, potentially out there on basically profiting off of deaths, because the recap that we're going to be doing today is The Crash, very popular current true crime documentary on Netflix. A quick summary: a teen slams her car into a building, killing her boyfriend and their mutual friend. What seems like a tragic accident becomes a murder case in this documentary. I'm just going to mention the three main characters or people who were a part of this accident, which is Mackenzie Shirilla, Dominic Russo, and Davion Flanagan. Ratings for this particular documentary: 92% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, 67% audience score. Delora, did you give a grade for The Crash?
I did not. Mainly because this one was rough. I mean, we've obviously spoken about some tough topics, but I can't say I got any joy or enjoyment out of this. And so yeah, I'm gonna do an NA for this.
Yeah, I am with you. Like, especially, I think the last one that we really dug our teeth into was the high school catfish situation with the young lady whose mom was bullying her and her boyfriend.
Mother?
But it was so shocking and so outrageous turn of events, whereas this is just full on tragedy, right?
Yeah. And I didn't have it spoiled either. The other documentary, not to say there was any suspense to this one or anything like that, but yeah, tough.
I mean, we get right into it, right? Because this one focuses on a car accident, and we see that pretty immediately from July 31st, 2022 in Strongsville, Ohio. Mackenzie Shirilla, who I mentioned, was driving with her boyfriend Dominic in the passenger seat. Their mutual friend Davion was in the back seat. And Mackenzie slams into the side of a building going about 100 miles per hour. Mackenzie and Davion had just graduated from high school. Like, we see the accident being cut between their high school graduation footage, and only Mackenzie survived from this accident. I will say, for me, seeing the crash video via the police camera footage was heartbreaking. I was like, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
If we needed this.
I was going to say, I don't recall ever seeing anything like that before, especially on site. It was to the point where I'm like, they're not going to show us anything, are they?
Right. Even the idea of like seeing them busting out the window and saying, oh, there's one person. Oh, no, actually, there's three. Two are DOA. I'm like,
when he said that, I was like, yo, this is real. And then when he was like, the girl is still breathing, unconscious, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And when you see the state of the car, My first reaction, and maybe it's because it's one of those car accidents that's just stuck in my memory, was Princess Diana's car accident and like that visual of that car and that impact. And like 100 miles per hour hitting into a wall. I can just only imagine. Like, I know at some point in the documentary, the prosecutor is like, for anybody who was alert and aware, that had to be just such a like terrifying, horrific way to have to spend your final moment. So it was just a lot to take in with them showing that. And I was like, this is a lot to process. You know, if I was the family or friends or any relation to them, I don't really know if I could have sat through this. So, you know, God bless the victims' loved ones. The initial thoughts about this when this happened was, you know, oh, this must be an accident. Were they drunk? Did they fall asleep? Were they on drugs? And we do get the reactions from the families. Again, there was a lot of heartbreaking moments, and I will say the police actually going and telling Mackenzie's parents, "Hey, a couple kids didn't make it. Who?" Seeing them go tell Dominic's dad, "Your son didn't make it." Like, devastating. We'll hear the stories from their friends, their high school friends, their high school group, who speaks about this and speaks about them. And I mean, they obviously were just living their regular teenage, and Dominic was 20, like day to day lives. They were young, they were hopeful, they were, you know, having a good time. It was definitely heartbreaking to have to witness, but also obviously the thought was potentially honoring the lives of these young people who passed away as well. So, per Mackenzie's parents, Mackenzie and Dominic were planning a life together, but they had actually allowed her to live with him at his residence. She was 17, he was 20 years old. Delora, you are a parent. How did you feel about Mackenzie's parents' thoughts and decisions on her living with her boyfriend?
Correction, I am a Black parent. I don't know not one Black person on this side of heaven that would be like, yeah, go live with your extra grown boyfriend. Her parents were, to me, that was like strike one on what type of parents she had. Told me everything I needed to know.
Yeah, I think their exact verbiage was she was mature enough. And I'm like, I understand that she's about to be of age to go to college. That's one thing. You can't control what she might do when she goes to college and be in dorms and all this stuff. But like, you really feel while she's still
But
in
the
high
question
school, she
is,
was mature enough to be living with a man?
was college even on the table? Like, how were they raising her? Like that these are my questions, Ashley.
Yeah.
We also were raised in a certain kind of way as well. There's just low expectations. Now, things are different now. They are younger than us, so I don't know what parents are doing these days.
Not this. This still doesn't feel like a norm.
It does not.
No, no.
It's you're moving. I You know me. I don't even think if you're in a relationship in high school that y'all should go to the same college. Like, that's how I feel. I'm like, go to the college that best suits you and your goals and aspirations. Do not hitch your wagon to a person like that out of high school.
Yeah. You were team Laura Jean going separate from Peter. I remember on our To All the
Yeah.
Boys I Loved Before
Yeah,
recap.
because you have, as a woman, especially in this generation, I mean, I don't know what it's like now because we ain't got the same type of options like we used to have before this administration. But if you can live and do your own thing as long as you
Yeah.
can before your life is dictated by a man and children, you do those things.
Live your best life. Absolutely. I mean, there's something beautiful about like college sweethearts and all that stuff. Is beautiful. But
Sure.
I do
Sure.
think she was very, very young and she
Very.
looked very, very young to me. I was like, she looks
They
like a baby
look
to me.
like babies to
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
acting way too grown.
Acting way too grown. So let's get into that a bit. When some friends go talk to the police, they mentioned that The trio had been out, had been partying, and likely were doing drugs. Two of the popular drugs that it seemed like they got into were mushrooms and weed. And the documentary made a point, yet again, to highlight some of the disparities in parenting. Mackenzie's parents, dad in particular, had no problem with it. He was like, if anything, I advocate for it. It's better than drinking, da da da. Davion's adoptive daddy, because let's be clear, Davion's a black child. Him and
Yes.
his siblings adopted by white parents.
Mm-hmm.
But his daddy said, no, 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 no. I told my son, don't believe the hype. That weed isn't a gateway drug, X, Y, and Z. And if anything, he felt like had started running with the wrong crew because Davion was actually a promising football player who got injured his senior year and then started hanging out with Mackenzie and Dominic and their whole little clique. So you could tell his dad was like, if he had listened to me and his mama, this may have never happened.
They were doing a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
I I was really shocked by that.
And this was before weed was legal in Ohio. So the
I
fact
was
that she
gonna
was flaunting it
say,
like that on social.
that's where I'm going. I'm like, it's one thing to do drugs, it's another thing to do drugs on social media. I feel like this case is also important and relevant for kids of this generation where social media is just a given. It's
Yeah.
like you got to be very mindful of your your fingerprints, you know what I mean? Your social media fingerprints, because they will catch up to you.
I think they made it a big point to highlight Mackenzie's social media life and engagement, especially the prosecution in like character development and trying to use it to show kind of character assassination to an extent by the time
Girl.
we reach the trial.
Yep.
What gutted me was going back to Davion when one of his friends says that he was actually supposed to ride home with him from the party. And at the very last minute, he changed his mind. Like, I felt nauseous. I was like, one single decision cost that child his life.
So heartbreaking.
So Mackenzie, during the course of her injuries and going to the hospital and all these things that are happening, she's tested for drugs and alcohol. And the tests come back no alcohol in her system, no mushrooms in her system, positive for THC, which is in marijuana, but the prosecution did not feel that would have impaired her as a driver because she was a regular, consumer of marijuana. When we start really digging into Mackenzie's character, she's described by Davion's sister as thinking she's better than other people. She's mentioned by social media posts as being a bully. The prosecution notes there are multiple school incidents of her being disrespectful to teachers and fellow students. And yet her parents seem to be very relaxed and seemingly let her get away with very, very bad behavior. What were your thoughts or feelings about Mackenzie and the portrayal that she's given throughout the documentary, especially when we talk about them leaning into her social media presence?
I did not have a high opinion of Mackenzie and her antics. And honestly, the more her parents talk also made me feel like, oh, she was very enabled, coddled, and not, I don't think she understood. I think about,
Consequences.
let me, Ashley, let me get there. I
Sorry.
was going to quote my favorite line from Life. There are consequences and repercussions. Okay. I don't think any of that computed in Mackenzie's mind. It's based off of her actions and the way she moved through life. I mean, even in this situation where her dad was like, I showed up to school one day and she told me she didn't do it. And I was like, fine, I believe you. And we walked out the door.
I know when my
What?
child is lying. Okay.
Mm, okay. The same child who got a boyfriend who's how many years older than her? Like, if I'm keeping it frank, she came off as a brat to me.
And I totally see that and I totally hear that. And I do think that it feels like she was mean girlish, most likely to a lot of other people and students in school and had a mouth on her and all that stuff. I think the one caveat I have to her portrayal is that she is still a teenage girl. And I think that some of the adults leaned in heavy and tried to assassinate her character because of the severity of this accident and what happened. Whereas a lot of teenagers her age would not come across well if we analyzed their social media behavior. Let's be for real. I mean, this is a generation that documents every moment of their freaking lives. This girl was just had her phone on her lap, just driving a car. You know what I mean? Like her and her girlfriends, whoever she's friends with, they're making videos based off of the latest musical acts and rappers who the parents and like they don't know who these people, they don't understand the references. You and I don't even understand all these references.
Well, I will also say that I feel like she was definitely an example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she is the poster child to everybody else to be like, you keep your nose clean on social media as much as you can. And again, it's to the point where yes, she's young, but it's almost like, can you truly process what you've done?
We're gonna have to get into the whole remorse part of this as we wrap up, because I think we're reaching a point where in this documentary it's becoming more and more apparent, obviously, that this was not an accident, right? Her alcohol and drug test came back. It seems like she should have been good to go. Then they performed an analysis of the car. No tampering, no malfunctioning. Accelerators pressed down the entire time. No braking detected whatsoever. So evidence is supporting the idea that this was absolutely an intentional situation. And if that's the case, why? And so as we start moving through, we hear from another student who comes in and tells the police that Mackenzie did voodoo on Dominic so he could never break up with her. Dominic's brother comes out and talks about the fact that Dominic was planning to break up with her. He tried to break up with her multiple times, felt like she was possessively in love with him. His mother comes out and says 2 weeks before the crash, Dominic had called her and told her Mackenzie was driving erratically, sent a friend to go get him. The friend alleges he overheard Mackenzie saying she crashed the car. So we start to get into this pattern of was their relationship so toxic that it was either Dominic's with me or I'm going to kill him? And if that's the case, was it murder suicide attempt that she did when she slammed that car, no braking, 100 miles per hour into the side of a building? So Mackenzie gets arrested. And let me just say, the police wasn't fucking around with her arrest. They pulled them over on the side of the road, knocked her phone out her hand and said, baby girl, come on, you are under arrest.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not, because again, it's like lives were lost based off of your actions.
It's the severity. It's absolutely the severity, right? She's charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder and tried as an adult, even though the accident happened when she was 17. The severity of this is not lost on anybody. And so we end up cutting to Mackenzie's in prison. So we know how this went down.
Yo, I didn't know how this was gonna go, right? But when they showed her, a more recent version of her in prison, I was like, yo, what did they get on her? You know what I mean? Like,
I will say that this current iteration of her, for one, I was like, did she get black in prison? Because the hair, the vibe, the cadence of the voice.
you picked that up too, didn't
Yeah.
you? Yeah, it's that's so funny.
Did you feel when you heard her, I'm going to say air quotes, side of events that it felt genuine, it felt remorseful, it felt true?
I will say, watching the documentary, I find it to be very convenient that she does not remember anything.
The selective amnesia of it all. She says in her version of events, and her parents were saying this even prior during the trial and everything that's shown, that she's not a murderer. There was no ill intent. She has a blood pressure disorder called POTS, and that she likely had a medical emergency and blacked out. So she claims that when she turned the corner, she has no memory until she wakes up in the hospital. Very, very selective portion of memory to no longer have.
And don't get me wrong, the accident is surely horrific enough for that to be a possibility, but I wouldn't be surprised if the family was like, we gonna not remember any of this and we gonna stick to this story.
The judge damn sure wasn't buying this version of events, found her guilty on all counts. She got 15 years to life, concurrent
Girl,
sentences.
back to back. She is up for parole in 2037.
2037. And her parents are fighting for her release. They've claimed, even in the documentary, they have evidence that disputes the trial evidence. I will say the text between Mackenzie and Dom's mom alleging he actually tried to kill her during that accident 2 weeks before was compelling. So
Yeah,
I was
I
curious to hear more about
I
that.
absolutely believe that they had a toxic relationship. This is why I'm also against young relationships too, because I'm just like, most people's frontal lobes don't develop until they're in their 20s, right? So you mean to tell me they're young, they're doing all these drugs, they're doing all types of grown stuff.
Yep.
You can't tell me this was a healthy relationship and something that, I mean, they said that he cheated and she would freak out. Like, I'm sorry, you can't convince me that they had anything that was worth saving in terms of a relationship. And, she has shown behavior that shows, like, even if she didn't believe it, or even if she didn't mean it in the past, like, I'm gonna run this car in the wall, like, it's giving that type of erratic behavior, you know what I mean? And so
Absolutely.
none of this is far-fetched, and that's why what they call it, reasonable doubt, we ain't got none right now.
Do you think that this might have shaken out differently had she chosen a jury trial over a bench trial?
I think her social media and phone world was very damaging. i
I thought it
don't i
was
don't believe a jury would have changed her fate.
I think it was interesting that her lawyer came in so confident, thinking that there was no evidence, whereas it felt like a very open and shut case based on the fact that there was no defense for what happened. Like the actual forensic evidence of the crash, how do you dispute the fact that the brake was never applied? How do you dispute the fact that you kept your foot on the accelerator? If you blacked out, why would your foot not have eased off of the accelerator? Um, and then some of the conversation around the car, the fact that the car was put in neutral and then back in drive, the fact that there was some attempt to divert the steering felt like a tussle of someone attempting to stop what was happening. So I'm just not sure. Maybe he was just a bad lawyer, but I'm just not sure how he would not have felt that this was the deck was stacked against her for any hope she possibly had, because even Mackenzie's family seemed convinced that she might get off with this, but Dominic's dad and sister originally being on her side and then hearing the evidence and changing their minds and hearts about everything, I was like, I mean, I don't think she really had a leg to stand on once you see what happened in black and white.
Because honestly, she did have a lot of things going for her, being young, cute, white girl. Like, you know what I mean? However, her bad behavior caught up to her, whether or not she did it on purpose or not. And I feel like they wanted, I felt like the judge wanted to give justice to the family who lost their family members.
Yeah. What makes me sad is Davion's dad towards the end of the doc saying that he, for his closure, still just wants to know what actually happened in those final moments. Like he was like, even if it makes Mackenzie look bad, I just would like to know what really happened. Like that makes me really sad because, again, she may be in prison, but does that ease this loss? I don't think it eases this loss for any of these families. I don't think it makes anything easier for them. And even Dom's sister said, 15 years is nothing. She could get out and still live a full life and X, Y, and Z. So the end with the kind of montage of the two young men who passed away and the music, it's like,
Sad.
man,
That was sad.
man,
And
tear
then just
jerker.
how young they are, born in 2001, 2000. Like,
Three,
what?
yeah, yeah.
What?
Rest in peace. It's
Yes.
heartbreaking. Why do you think that this particular documentary is permeating the way that it is? Why do you think that this story is resonating with people?
Because she's a cute young white girl on social media. I honestly think that's what's drawing a lot of attention. People are really defending her, which I found to be surprising. But again, documentaries, they can be biased, but I mean, the trial did go the way it did, and she did get convicted. So I'm not mad at it. I mean, I hate to sound, I don't want to sound insensitive, but it's like I understand logic. I don't think there was an injustice had in this particular case.
Yeah, I mean, I think what makes me sad is that two young lives obviously were lost, but also I think that I don't think she probably had prior intent in the way that it was kind of portrayed. I think she made a very dumb, ridiculous decision in a moment that she did not think through whatsoever, took lives, and now she will have to live with the ramifications of that for the rest of her life. That is ultimately what I think happened. And whether or not she's ever going to really admit that, whether or not she has processed that, whether or not she will move forward in a way that can actually help with restitution and with, what you go to prison for, which is to rehabilitate. I'm not sure, but I definitely wish the families of everybody well, because this is just devastating to see for teenagers and young adults and people who are at the cusp of starting their lives. Again, coming out of high school, potentially heading to college. Dominic had entrepreneurial ambitions, it sounded like. So, it's absolutely a tragedy across the board. And I think one of the reasons why this is potentially resonating too is just, again, to me, it feels like there's people still just have opinions about it, even though to me it feels like kind of an open and shut case. There's this ambiguity that people can still find in well, she said she doesn't remember, and she had so much life to live, and her friends, even her one friend who refused to talk to the prosecutor and stuff, who's like 10 toes down for her to this day. And it's like, Mackenzie wouldn't do that. Their relationship was fine, X, Y, and Z. I just think there's angles that people are still trying to find with this, and I'm curious if there is more. Like, again, the information that came out at the very end with the mom saying the text between, like, is there more that we have not been privy to that is going to come out about this case? Always curious and open to hear more about it.
Yeah, and I'm just saying this in general, like, the people who passed on, were very much human too. So like,
Yes.
who's to say that there was, what we alluded to earlier, a toxic element to their relationship and into tit for tat that ultimately um end up being the demise for everyone, because I
Mm.
get Mackenzie isn't living the life I'm sure she imagined for herself, so
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts, Delora?
yeah, it was a pretty straightforward case as far as I'm concerned as well. Like, I'm not mad at it. Like, there's plenty of cases in our justice system that are flawed, but this seemed um pretty straightforward. It's just so sad. So sad. I mean, I think one of the most gut-wrenching moments of the video or of the documentary was the video of the actual car crash, because it's like people were in the car. That crash was just unbelievable.
Yeah. I didn't even
And
like hearing how they were found, like how their bodies were found. So I was like, I don't need these details.
yeah, because it sounded like Dominic was trying to protect Dom. Like, so sad, so sad. And I think that's the part that's really sad too. Not only the loss, but just being unclear on what actually happened, not having that closure for the family and friends. It's tough.
Yeah. God bless the loved ones. This is definitely a tough one, but we have other versions of this that has been released as well from Hulu and some of the other platforms. Kind of seemingly think they kind of are taking a different approach or angle. To me, it's again still pretty much the same. I think this one leans a little bit heavier on like the parents of it all, and the recklessness in which they might have allowed Mackenzie's behavior. So if you guys are interested, there's definitely some other options out there if you want to continue to deep dive into this case. Let me find it really quick because I did take a screenshot from off of, I think it was on Threads, of the other suggestions for it. So, Killer Cases on Hulu, season 4, episode 12. Mean Girl Murders on HBO Max, season 2, episode 7.
Oh my gosh.
And Dr. Insanity on Tubi, season 2, episode 4. So, if you want to do a deeper dive, there you go. This was in reaction to Miss Kev on Stage's mention on Threads that she had watched the crash. And so a responder gave those additional insights. So there you go. All right, Delora. All right, guys, that is a wrap on our recap for this week. Feel free to always share your thoughts and opinions about this case, about this documentary, about true crime in general. What would you like to see next? What would you like to hear us talk about next? We'd love to hear from you. Let's move into hidden gems. Delora, what you got for the week?
All right, this week I have a K drama. It is so, it was so sweet because I watched this with my daughter. It was a little heavy though, I'm not gonna lie. It's called Castaway Diva, available on Netflix. It is starring someone who's becoming my favorite Korean actress, Park Yoon Bin. When I tell you this woman is incredible, like I first talked about her when I talked about my other hidden gem called um, The King's Affection. Fabulous. This is my second one, but this is actually my third K drama. I'm currently working on another one with her starring in it. And what I think is really cool is she has such diverse roles. So for this one, she plays a young lady who got lost um, at sea, and she was stranded on a remote island for 15 years. And she was on her way to becoming mentored by her favorite singer. And and she had a classmate, a young boy, who was trying to help her make her dreams come true. And 15 years later, she manages to meet the singer that she once, like, loved, her idol, but her favorite singer is washed up. And so she sings behind the scenes for her in like a revival of her favorite singer. And it's really good. It sounds really like silly, but they really touched on some really serious conversations about family dynamics and abusive relationships and things like that. And it's really good. And like on freaking Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score is like 100%. So like it's like really good. Anyway, it's available on Netflix, and it is a season, and it has, I want to say, 12 episodes. Yes, 12 episodes. So it came out back in 2023. I'm losing my voice. But yeah, and it's also dubbed. So if you want to ease into your K-dramas and have an English dub, it's good. That's what I have for today, Ashley. How about you?
Very nice. I have none this week. I really had my feel last week when I gave y'all 4 coming off of our break.
So
So
many, so
I
many.
am going to abstain this week. I've been watching some stuff, but I will hold back until I've finished a few more things and am ready to give my full thumbs up on them. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for listening to yet another episode of Recapping with Delora and Ashley.
Thank you.
And if you're brand new, welcome. Thank you as well.
Hi.
Please share this episode out with everybody you know. We appreciate it. We'll be back with more. But in the meantime, as always, be blessed.
Bye.